In this video, we'll be taking a look at some of the questions from the review that will be similar to questions on the test. Starting with this first page, I'm going to zoom in on number 2. You will have a couple questions where you're given the center and you're given the radius, and you need to write the equation of the circle. Of course, it is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The radius is 3, so 3 squared is 9, and then you just plug in the h and the k. And then let's go ahead and take a look at number 6. This is a little bit more involved. In number 6, you're given the center and a point on the circle. There will also be a couple of these questions. You'll need to find the distance between the point on the circle and the center. So use the distance formula. That will actually give you the radius. And when you do so on this one, you realize that the radius is the square root of 18. So when you write your equation, you just plug in your x and y, or your h and k. So x minus 14 squared plus y plus 9 squared equals 18. Anytime you have the square root of a number and you square it, you just get that number as the answer. All right, and then one more from this page. Let's take a look at number 10. This is the most involved. So you're writing an equation of a circle, but all you're given is the ends of a diameter. Well, if you find the midpoint of these 2 points, the ends of the diameter, then you will be finding the center. So you just add the x's and divide by 2 to get the new x, and you add the y's, divide by 2, and get the new y value. So the center of this one is 13 and 1. Now you have the center. Well, we still need the radius, but you can use 1 point at the end of the diameter and the radius and find the distance between those 2 points to find the, use the center and the end point and find the distance between those to find the radius. So again, you're using the distance formula. And this one, the radius is the square root of 5. Again, when you square that, you get 5. So in the equation, equals r squared is 5. And then, of course, you're just plugging in h and k. So the opposite of 13 minus 13, the opposite of 1 is minus 1. All right, let's take a look at the next page. Okay, so on this page, you're just sketching graphs. You will have a couple of graphs you'll have to do for circles. All right, if you know the equation of a circle, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we need to first start by finding the center. It's going to be -3 and -2. It's always the opposite, kind of what you see in here, because it's x minus h. If h is 3, it's minus 3. And y is k. I'm sorry, if k is 2, then it's minus 2 as the center. Plot the center. And then consider the radius. If r squared is 16, then r is the square root of 16, which is 4. So we go up 4, down 4, and over 4 to the right, and to the left 4. And then those are your points. You can draw your circle. You'll have 2 of those. Okay, and then taking a look at this page, this is a question about circles where you have to write the equation in standard form and identify the center and the radius. All right, so in this one, you have this equation, x squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 18y plus 54 equals 0. All right, obviously you see here we have an x squared term and an x to the 1. Same with the y. We have a y squared and a y to the 1. So we're going to be completing the square with both x and y. So that's what I've done here. I started by writing them in order, x squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 18y, and then I took the plus 54 over to the other side as a negative 54. Then we're going to complete the square with the x squared minus 6x. So half of 6 is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So I'm adding that 9. And then plus y squared plus 18y. Half of 18 is 9, and 9 squared is 81. So I'm adding 9 and 81 to the left side. So I have to add 9 and 81 to the right side. I end up with this equation. The way that we factor x squared minus 6x plus 9 is we use the half of the b term, or half of 6 was 3. That's what we squared. So x minus 3 squared plus y plus 9 squared equals 36. So the center is going to be positive 3 and negative 9. And then if r squared is 36, then the square root of 36 is 6. That's the radius. Okay, and you will have a couple of those to do. All right, and now let's take a look at this page. This is where we start working with our ellipse. okay? We're going to identify the center, the vertices, co-vertices, and the foci of each. So let's focus in here on number 26. You will have a couple of these that you'll have to do. They will not all look like this. Sometimes you'll have a h and a k term. On here, our y squared, there's no minus k, so it's 0. But the center on this one is going to be at 3, 0. So you can start by plotting 3, 0. Then, if we know that the a term, or the a term actually is 36, so the square root of 36 is 6. So we're going to be going up 6 and down 6 on the y-axis with the y, okay, from the center. And then the x term, this is over 1. It's not written, but it's over 1, so we're going to be going to the right and to the left 1. So now I'm able to plot those points. I can draw my ellipse, and I know what the vertices are. The vertices are the endpoints of the longer axis of symmetry. So it's at 3, positive 6, 3, negative 6. And the co-vertices is the endpoints of the shorter axis of symmetry. So it looks like we're at 2, 0 and 4, 0. And then, of course, if you're going to locate the foci, it's always on the a squared, or the longer axis of symmetry. So when we do our math, we use the formula c squared equals a squared minus b squared. In this one, a squared was 36, b squared is 1, 36 minus 1 is 35, so c equals the square root of 35. Now, when I wrote my answer here, what I know is that the x value of the foci is 3, and then we're going to add c, which is the square root of 35, and we're going to subtract c, which is the square root of 35. So I just wrote the x value is 3, and the y value will be plus or minus square root 35, or 0 plus or minus the square root of 35. All right. Now let's take a look at writing equations of ellipse. So I'm going to zoom in here on number 32. You will have a couple of these. Again, they will not all, I don't know if they're going to all be both vertical, both horizontal, one or the other, but I'm just showing you some examples here in this video. So I looked at number 32. We are given the vertices at 8, 7, and 8, negative 17. So you'll notice here that in the vertices, which is the endpoints of the major axis of symmetry, the y value is what's changing. That means we have a vertical change, which is the longer of the axis of symmetry. So it's a vertical ellipse. And then what I need to do, because I have the vertice and the co-vertice, then I could find the center. I could use either one of these actually to find the center. Okay, and that's what I did here. I found the midpoint. I did 8 plus 8, which is 16, divided by 2, which is 8, and then 7 plus negative 17, divided by 2, which is negative 5. Now, I did go ahead and show you, I highlighted, when you're given the vertices and the co-vertices, you can see the value that doesn't change. The 8 is the x value that doesn't change, and the negative 5 is the y value that doesn't change, and that's actually your new center, 8, negative 5. Well, once you know the center, then you can find the a squared and the b squared, which is what we need to write the equation of an ellipse. A squared, or a, is the distance from the center to the end point. On this one, we're at negative 5. Remember, it's a vertical change with the vertices. So we're at negative 5 y value, and we go up to 7, or we go from negative 5 to negative 17. If you just subtract those numbers, 7 minus negative 5 is 12. So a is 12, so a squared is 144. B, we'll use the co-vertices, because that's what our b squared is, our b value. So if we look at our center, we're at 8 at the x value, and then we're moving over to 17, or we're moving 8 to negative 1. If you just subtract 17 minus 8, 17 minus 8 is 9, and 9 squared is 81. So now you have your a squared and your b squared. So then you just plug it in. X minus h is 8, so x minus 8. And y minus k is negative 5, minus negative 5 is plus 5. So you fill that in, x minus h squared, that's divided by 81, because remember, this is vertical. So we know that the a squared goes with the y variable. So x minus h squared over 81 plus y plus 5 squared over 144 equals 1. And that is an equation of vertices. You will have to do 2 of those where you're given a vertices and the covertices. Now let's take a look at, let's go all the way down here to number 38. You will also have a couple questions where you're given the vertices and the foci of the ellipse, okay? Well, again, we can use the vertices to determine if it's horizontal or vertical. Notice that the x values are what's changing for the vertices. This is the longer of the 2 axes. It's the major axis, and the x is what's changing, so it's going to be a horizontal ellipse. That's important when we write our equation. Okay, we can also find our center. We're actually going to have to use the midpoint formula on this one because all we're given is the vertices. We're not given the covertices. But you just add your x's, 16 plus negative 10 divided by 2. That will give you 3. And then negative 7 plus negative 7 is negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Notice the negative 7 didn't change. That's why that's the center as well. 3, negative 7. Well, now I have my center. So I can find the a value and therefore the a squared. We are going from an x value of 3 in the center to an x value of 16 at one of the vertices, or from an x value of 3 at the center to a negative 10. Well, the difference there, 16 minus 3 is 13, and 13 squared is 169, so that's our a squared. Now, our b squared on this one, we are not given the covertices, so we really can't find it that way. But we are given the foci, so therefore we can also find the distance, or we can find the c, and therefore c squared, by looking at the change in the x value horizontally with the foci and the center. The x value is going from 3 to 15, or 3 to negative 9. If you subtract those, 15 minus 3 is 12, or negative 9 minus 3 is negative 12. So c is 12 squared, or c squared is 12 squared, which is 144. Now you need to plug in your formula to find b squared. We use c squared equals a squared minus b squared. So 144 equals 169 minus b squared. When you subtract 169 from both sides, you get negative 25 equals negative b squared. Then you divide by the negative 1, and you get b squared equals 25. So now you have b squared, a squared, and the center, and you can write your equations. Because you know it's horizontal, the a squared is with the x variable, and then you just plug in the center equals 1.